All right, everyone, good morning. Thank you for joining us on this Monday morning. I see that we've got people from all over the state this morning, which is really, really exciting to see. Thank you for joining us. If you did not have an opportunity to see our first workshop, which is really just an overview of Arizona Gives and some of the changes that you're going to see, that is available on our website. But for this morning, we're going to start part one of marketing and campaign creation with Angela Palmer, our new director of marketing. She actually was our regional director for Northern Arizona, and is now switching over to be our marketing person. She is obviously still available for all of the Northern Arizona folks to give her a call, so we want to make sure that you know that. But Angela has been with us since March and has come in and really has a great knowledge and marketing background. And I think she is the perfect person to lead you through this workshop today. So Angela, welcome, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks. Just a quick note for everyone. If there are specific tactics or things that you want to know about, definitely make a note of that somewhere, because at the end, I will be asking for that feedback. So today, what we're looking at is we're going to be doing some getting to know you polls, just so I kind of know who's in the audience and who it is that I'm talking to. We will then be walking through a communication template that we have for all of you, and then we'll be discussing next steps. So I'm going to jump right into those polls. And the first question is, has your organization participated in AZ Gives Day previously? All right, I'm seeing mostly yeses, but some no's. So welcome to the new people and the new organizations. We're excited to be working with you. So you can see that here we have 33 yeses and 7 no's. And my next question is, does your organization have a dedicated marketing person on staff? All right, I'm going to end that poll and share those results. So we're pretty close to 50-50 on that one. And that's kind of what I expected. So I'm hoping that this template will help you be prepared, regardless of whether or not you are a marketing person, whether you have one or you don't. Let's do the next one. And this is the last one. So we kind of know because we saw where you posted in the chat, but if you could tell us more specifically where your organization is headquartered. Jen, I think this one will make you happy. We have a very wide range of organizations from all over the state. So welcome, everyone.
Great.
Thank you for sharing that with me. That just helps me get a little bit more information about who it is that I'm talking to and how to cater our next marketing webinar for you. So today we're going to walk through the AZ Gives communication template. Jen is going to drop the link to that template as well as the PowerPoint into the chat right now so that you can download that. You can write on the template, you can print it, you can type it, etc. We find that this template is really helpful for campaigns like AZ Gives Day because it helps keep you and your organization focused on your goals. So I'm hoping that you find this helpful. We're going to walk through it today. And then if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat, and Jennifer is going to interrupt me at any time to help get those answered for you. And we will also have a dedicated time at the end to answer more questions. So let's dive in. Okay, so if you have that lovely sheet, you will see the first thing that it asks you to think about is your organization's mission and its campaign theme. So real quick before we get started, for the purpose of providing an example to work with, I'm creating a pretend marketing campaign for the Alliance. I'm calling it pretend because in case some of you who don't know, who haven't participated in AZ Gives before, the Alliance doesn't solicit for donations on Arizona Gives Day because we don't want to compete with any of the nonprofits that are participating. So this is what I imagine the Alliance might use as a marketing campaign if we were to do that thing. So as a nonprofit, you most likely already have your mission ready to go. It's always important when you're starting to think about marketing campaigns because everything you do should reinforce that mission to your audience. So our mission here at the Alliance is to unite, strengthen, and advance Arizona's nonprofit sector. Next, we need to think of a campaign theme. So this should help describe in a phrase or sentence what you thematically will be doing for your Arizona Gives Day marketing campaign. So some famous examples of campaign themes could be Intel's Powering Creativity. You've got Wendy's, Where's the Beef? You've got Dos Equis, who has the most interesting man in the world. All of those are really great campaign themes. So for this, it's really about what is an overarching theme that you can use that will encompass what your organization does and could have potentially really cool marketing behind it. So for our example, I chose the theme, the difference a nonprofit makes. So it goes with our mission, right? But it also would really show why the Alliance is important and why we support the nonprofits throughout the state. So from there, we start thinking about campaign objectives. And when we talk about objectives, if I can say the word, the first thing I will say is we want to make sure that we use SMART goal setting. So just like when you're talking to your staff about setting goals, we want to make sure that your marketing objectives are also specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And all of these help us to be able to make sure that our objectives become a reality. So the objectives that you write for your campaign should be really clearly defined. The sheet we have gives you space for 3 objectives, but I will say that it is always better to have one very specific, clearly defined objective than 3 that are vague and not fully thought out. The more detailed and specific they can be, the more likely your marketing campaign will find success. So for our example, our first goal is to secure a matching grant of $1,000 by March 1st. So for those of you that don't know, matching grants can be a grant from a foundation, a business, a donor, and they've chosen to award your organization if, in turn, your organization raises the funds to match that amount granted. So we say we're going to secure this matching grant of $1,000 from, let's say Jen wants to donate $1,000 to the Alliance. So she's going to say, I'm going to donate $1,000, but you have to raise $1,000 on your own. There are details we need to figure out, like if we don't meet that matching grant, will they still give it to us? Will they give us the whole thing? Will they give it partial? Will they give it to us before the day, after the day, etc.? But these matching grants really help your audience kind of have an impetus to help you raise $1,000 because basically it doubles their donation. So our second goal would be to win a 10 a.m. Power Hour award. So for those of you new to AZ Gives, Power Hours are hours that, should you win, mean that you have the most dollars raised or the most unique donations of a minimum dollar amount by a nonprofit of your comparable size. And then you win an award, some sort of monetary award. It kind of varies depending on the hour, etc. And our third goal is to increase the number of early giving donors by 5%. So these are really short, right? They're brief, but they're really clear. Like, I know what I want to get out of each one. I have basically deadlines on each thing, and they're really specific about what it is that I want to do. So by writing these down as formal goals, I can remember as the marketing person or as staff members who are multiple of you working on marketing, that I need to set up specific campaigns to reach each of these goals. So next, we need to identify who our audiences are. And audiences are really well defined, just like objectives. And the more defined they are, the greater success you'll find in getting your key messages out to those audiences that we're trying to reach. Now, they can seem really defined, but they might not actually be, or they can seem really loosely defined, but in reality, be really specific. It's just depending on how you're looking at it and where those audiences are going to be used. So 2 examples. The first example, if you have used the AZ Gives platform before, maybe you're looking at targeting previous donors to the Arizona Gives campaigns. So it's an easy audience to hit. They already know about Arizona Gives, and because they gave to you before, they are more likely to potentially give to you again. Now, this is one that may seem really loose and not specific because we aren't drilling down to any specific kind of person, but it is specific because you have a very distinct list of donors that you could pull from previous years. Our second example looks much more specific, but it's actually quite much more vague. So maybe your organization has had the ability to drill down further into the data that you have about who typically gives to your organization. And if that's the case, then you might have an audience that looks like this. So we know that for some organizations, women in Arizona over the age of 45 that work or volunteer in the community or at other nonprofits are much more likely to give than any other audience. So that's really specific. However, it's actually much broader than those previous donors to AZ Gives. However, using certain platforms, you can target that audience just as easily as you can with the previous donors. So from there, we need to figure out what key messages we want to send to each of those audiences and some support points that we will use in our marketing. So one thing for you to know is that I really recommend doing this for each campaign objective. And if you have different audiences for each objective, create different key messages and support points for each of those audiences. It really helps you to see exactly what your play-by-play is going to be. So the important thing for key messages and support points is that just like everything else, they need to be really clear and they need to be really succinct. So for our example, let's say we want to target the new donor. They've never engaged with us before. So our key message would be that Arizona nonprofits provide pivotal services that help Arizona thrive. Because they're new donors, they might not know as much about Arizona nonprofits or about the work that we're doing to help them. So my supporting points, I know from the reports that the Alliance has created, I can use these. So I know that Arizona's nonprofit sector generates more than 8% of the state's gross state product. I know that human services, education, arts, and culture are just some of the many categories that represent Arizona's nonprofits. And I know that nonprofits are the state's 5th largest non-government employer. So these are really generic, but if you think about who it is that we're targeting, plus our goal to always kind of reiterate our mission, these points could potentially help that. And it does feed back up into our overall campaign theme. And Emma, I do see your question, and we are going to talk about tactics in a little bit. So you can also think about supporting points as like the meat of your sandwich or the tofu of your sandwich, whatever it is that you eat. It is the proof of your key message. How do I prove that Arizona nonprofits provide pivotal services that help Arizona thrive? That's what these supporting points do. And to Emma's statement, our detailed list of tactics. So when we think about tactics, we want to show our key, we want to figure out what tactics best show our key messages and ultimately meet our objectives. So the best way to do this is to be as descriptive and specific as possible so that when you go back to this list, you don't have to second guess the work that you were thinking about, right? So instead of saying, I'm going to do a social media campaign, it should be much more specific to that. It should be something like, you know, I'm going to do this on social media every day in this way at this time, because that gives you a little bit more detail and you don't have to try to get back into the same mind space that you had when you were creating this list. So like everything else, we want to be descriptive and we want to be specific. So our first example is to produce 3 30-second social media videos showing the work nonprofits do in the community. These are going to focus on volunteers, impact on individual constituents, and impact on community. So you can see it's really specific. We know exactly what our outcomes would be. And I will say that because everyone is now getting really used to Zoom, videos are so much easier, especially if they're testimonials, because most people can log into Zoom, record a 5-minute testimonial, and send them to you very easily without any need for a lot of editing. Our second tactic is to create a series of 3 emails to past donors, asking them to set a timer to donate during the 10 a.m. hour, a reminder at 9:30 a.m., and a thank you at 10:45 a.m. So to be honest, if I were actually going to do this campaign, I'd probably have more than 3 emails, but these 3 emails give people really specific things to do. So that first one, don't forget, you know, sign up to or give during the 10 a.m. hour. That will give us the potential to win this additional prize. Hey, it's 9:30. Have you given yet? What are you doing? We need your support to get this extra funds. 10:45. Thank you for donating. Oh, if you didn't, you still have time and we're still really close to winning. So all of that really drives to our campaign objective of winning that 10 a.m. power hour. And then finally, our third tactic is to create 1 social media post per day boosting the top 3 performing posts during early giving. So one of our objectives, if you remember, was to increase our early giving donations. So all we're doing is saying, this is very generic, it should be more specific, is that we want to make sure that we post every day and remind them that early giving has already started. We want to encourage staff, volunteers, and board members to share that, because the more people who share on social media organically, the more people will see it. And we want to share to local group pages. And to be honest, right now, I feel like that is the key to success when it comes to Facebook in particular. Find the local groups that exist on Facebook, find them, follow them, and share all of your work that you're doing in the communities. The way that Facebook is working right now, anyone who goes on is much more likely to see the content from a group that they are participating in than from anyone else. I know I follow a million gardening groups, and so now that's pretty much all I see. So if you want to see and get your stuff, your information in front of people within your community, then definitely share to as many of those local group pages as possible. And that's free for you to do. Now, the key I want to emphasize with these tactics is that you can clearly see that all of these roll up to match the key message and the campaign objectives that we created earlier. Without that, we aren't ever going to meet our objectives, right? We want to make sure that these are things that we can very clearly track between those objectives and help us meet those goals. Because what's the point in having a goal if we aren't doing something to try to meet it? So then we need to talk a little bit about channels. Now, channels can be as few or as many as you need, but they really should be more about how many can you feasibly do well, right? So channels include different social medias, email, LinkedIn, Twitter, print, billboards. It could include anything that people would be able to see. However, if you overextend, then your channels kind of don't make a difference and your marketing campaign isn't going to be successful. The key with marketing, which most of us have experience with, is that it has to be consistent and it has to be regular, right? So it's better if you pick one channel and you just stick to that one, and it's really good and it's really concise and everyone knows what to expect, than to pick 5. So Debbie, channel would be how you're getting your message out, right? What are you using to tell people about you? So I've created a small list for you to see what kinds of channels the Alliance uses in general. The first is email. So regardless of who you are, I really suggest when we're talking about AZ Gives in particular, that you use email. You can pull the contacts from previous donors from AZ Gives platform if you've used it before. You can use emails from your volunteers, from your constituents, from your personal contacts. But emails are one of the easiest way to get donations and get people who already know you engaged. So the second one I picked was Facebook, because of the social media platforms that exist, it's one of the ones that's the easiest to use. Most of the people in the community have used it before. And if you're going to pay to promote posts, I would say that this is Facebook probably has the biggest bang for your buck in terms of you can boost a post for $5 or $10 and still see a return on that. That some of the other social media channels, it's a little bit more difficult to do. I mean, Facebook, you know, you can like it or hate it, but its advertising sometimes is really helpful for nonprofits and it's easy to use. My next choice would be LinkedIn. So a lot of people disregard LinkedIn as a potential channel for marketing. However, LinkedIn is filled with professionals and most nonprofits don't use it effectively. So if you were to use it effectively, you're kind of entering a sphere in which there isn't as much competition as other places. And all of the professionals on there are looking for great causes to either get involved with or donate to. So I highly recommend it. And those you can do either on your personal LinkedIn profile, or you can create a profile just for your nonprofit and promote it that way. So I'm highlighting Front Doors just because the Alliance works with Front Doors a lot. However, you could really replace this organization with any media company that you have partnered with in the past. So it could be it could be like another website. Maybe it's your chamber website. It could be a local radio station, but it's really just a media company that we already have that developed relationship with. They already know who we are. We know who they are. They support our mission and want to help promote us. And then finally, I would always suggest going to your local newspaper. In particular, this works really well for rural areas because there's much less competition. But in those areas, most local newspapers are really looking for those feel-good stories, especially this year. And so telling people that you exist, even now, right, is going to help you when it comes to AZ Gives Day. Because the key for Arizona Gives is that you don't want people to just be hearing about you on the day of. You want them to know who you are way far in advance so that they know who you are. They know when AZ Gives Day comes, they want to donate to you. And so contact your local newspaper, tell them all the great things that you're doing over Christmas or the holidays or in January or February so that they want to cover those stories. And then when you start asking for those donations, no one is surprised and no one is asking who you are.
Angela, we have one question about emails, and they were asking about suggestions for emails that go beyond an existing donor base. So I think we're probably talking about prospect lists here. So if you want to talk about how you maybe can send two different types of emails to different audiences.
Yeah, so something that I would say most nonprofits have a really hard time with is segmenting your audience. So it might be that you have a good sized donor base, but you also have a good sized volunteer base, right? And those volunteers, sometimes they donate, but most of them don't. So it might be that you have two different kinds of emails going out, and really it's that they're just slightly tweaked. So your emails that go to the donors say things like, oh, you know, your donations make huge differences. We're looking to reach this really big goal this year of $25,000. Can you give? Can you help? Your volunteers, because they volunteer, they're already giving their time. Your request might be slightly different. It might be, hey, you guys do a really amazing job at volunteering, and we love that. Would you be willing to pledge more hours? Because we do have that ability within the AZ Gives platform. Or it could be, hey, did you know that even $5 could provide these services to this many animals, right? Or whatever your mission is. And asking for those varied amounts of donations will actually increase your total donations because you're targeting people based on where they're at. So it's really about, you know, our volunteers, they give their time, they don't typically give. So let's start them at a lower level. And then next year, maybe we ask them for a little more. For the donors, we start at a higher level. Does that make sense? Does that answer that question? You're on mute, Jen.
If Emma has additional questions, please send those in the chat and we'll see if we can answer those later on.
Yeah. I think, you know, there are places that you can purchase email lists from as well. And those are always a different kind of email. Just a quick note about those. So if you're going to purchase a prospecting list, which you can do from media companies, from, I don't know, all sorts of different places, then those are going to be more about like getting to know you emails. And they might be really more intensive campaigns where you send one email that says, hey, have you heard about us? This is what we do. This is why we're great. Learn more. And then your next one might be, hey, have you heard of Arizona Gives Day? We're participating. Do you want to help us? And so it's going to be more of like a build, a slow build of get to know us, do a soft ask, and then maybe like a few days before Arizona Gives or after you've already contacted them a few times, it's, we really need your support right now. Our nonprofit is hurting. COVID is terrible. Please help us. And so, you know, that buildup really helps people get to know you, but they also know why you need help. And it's not just you going through and soliciting people for donations. Okay. So once you know your channels, then we're going to go to our assets. So what do you have in your toolkit that you can show or give people that will bring home your points and help you meet your campaign objectives? So you don't have to list out every single thing you have, but it could be a mix. It could be what you already have, but to be honest, if I were thinking about a campaign and I knew I might need something, this might be where I also list the assets that I need to get and pull them out so I can figure out what it is exactly that I need. So for our assets, we have the Arizona Nonprofits Economic Power Positive Impact Report. Some donors really respond well to reports like that. And to be honest, we have a lot of pulse polls that you as a nonprofit, if you need to talk about how you've been impacted by COVID or how the sector has, please feel free to pull those from our website and you can use those. We have, because we work with all of you, we have a lot of images of nonprofits on our work drive. I'm not going to list every single one because we have thousands. But as we get closer, I might list the ones in particular that I feel like we want to use. We have an Alliance channel of videos on YouTube, and some of them are really short and some of them are really long, but linking to those in emails, linking to those on social media could be really successful for us. We also have old press releases. So if you have those, regardless of whether or not they're new or old, that information can still really help you be able to convey to your donors or your potential donors what it is that you do and why it's important. In terms of press releases, it could be the actual press release that you wrote, but it could also be links to the news articles that were written because of those press releases that you sent out. And then, like I said before, if you have any data on what's happening in your sector, on what's happening with your organization, on what's happening, you know, with you in general, all of that data is always helpful. So we have, you know, at the Alliance, like I said, we have those pulse poll data about what was happening with COVID, about what's happening with diversity, equity, and inclusion. So maybe that data could be helpful for me to then be able to convey to our potential donors and audience what it is that we do. And then we talk about the thing everyone hates to talk about, which is our budget and analysis. So for this step, I didn't do it fully because your budget is really up to you. And your budget could be $0 or it could be $10,000. It's what works for your particular organization. But what I will say is that when we talk about budget and analysis, it isn't just about what you spend, but it's about measuring that your campaign was successful and how you're going to do that. So that measurement is always more complicated than just saying, hey, board of directors, guess what? We met our campaign objectives for Arizona Gives Day. What you should want to do is say, hey, not only did we meet our campaign objectives, but we were also able to know more information about our marketing campaigns than previous. It's not just about what money we spent, but what money we brought in and whether or not our tactics were worthwhile in bringing in that return on our investment. So here are some key performance indicators that may help you drill down to decide if your specific tactics were helpful to achieve your campaign. So you could look at a % increase in donors, which could help you figure out if overall your campaign was helpful. You could look at social media post engagement, which if you paid to boost posts could really help you figure out if you were making a difference, especially if you compare post engagement prior to starting that campaign and after. And by social media post engagement, I would say you want to look at shares, likes, and comments. All of those are very important in terms of how people are participating in your brand, your organization. You may want to look at click-through rates on emails. That will tell you how successful your email campaigns are. Some email programs or your analytics, you might be able to actually track if people clicked on a link in your email and then if they actually completed that donation. All of those things are really important. It is helpful to say like, oh, here's my list of people I emailed. How many of them donated? And when did they donate? Did they donate really close to after when we sent that email? Because that probably means that email made a significant difference. Some people only check once a day. So did they donate on the same day that email was? How many people and donations can you actually attribute to the emails that you're sending that are requesting donations? So that's something to kind of think about, and is a little murky, but you can kind of play with those numbers. And maybe you're looking at a % increase in donation amount. So maybe you find that you don't have an increase in donors. Maybe you actually have a decrease in donors, but what you're finding is that you've made $10,000 more than what you made previously. So whatever you did was successful in some way because you still increased your donation, even though you've decreased your donors. So, you know, all of that is really important to look at. It isn't just about, oh, I've increased my donors. Oh, I've increased my donation. Oh, I met my goal. We won the 10 a.m. power hour. It's how did you meet that 10 a.m. power hour? How could you replicate that in the future? And so these programs of where you're really doing the planning will help you in the future be able to kind of understand what you need to do to be successful again. Bethany, you can make some cool graphs that helps you see both when communication went out and when donations came in. Yes, that is exactly it. I am a data nerd, and so I love to make those kinds of graphs. And it does, you will see often a correlation in, oh, we did social media posts. Oh, look, our donations went up. Or, oh, we did emails, and oh, look, our donations went up. Thank you, Bethany. Yes. All right, so you might be saying, great, Angela, this is a lot of work and I just don't have time for that. But I'm going to tell you why you should make some time. And I don't think that it has to be hours and hours. It's really about setting aside some time every day. And it might just be 15 minutes, and that's okay. But you've got to take some time. And here's why. So we know that organizations that have dedicated marketing campaigns prior to April, when Arizona Gives Day month is, they see an increase in donors and donations. We also know that people who haven't heard of your organization before, they're not going to be as likely to give as people who have engaged with you previously. So the sooner you can start building up people's knowledge of who you are, the more successful your Arizona Gives Day is going to be. And then finally, we know that not everyone in Arizona knows about AZ Gives, which is crazy, and we're working on that, but it's just a fact. And the more nonprofits publicize what they're doing in conjunction with what we as the Alliance are doing to promote Arizona Gives, then the more people will know and all nonprofits will benefit. So what we've seen, and last year was insane, Jen can attest to this. I was looking at the data coming in and I was like blown away. But we saw many donors give to many organizations in one sitting because it's all in one place and it's easy to do that thing. However, we can't be the only ones who are promoting Arizona Gives. We need your help in doing that too, so that everyone can feel those benefits. The more you promote, the more everyone succeeds. So you might say, okay, now what? This is a lot. What am I going to do? I'm feeling overwhelmed. So I have some suggested next steps for you to kind of break it down a little bit. I really suggest that you determine one point of contact for your marketing activities. This does not mean that that one person is the only one doing everything, but it is the person who is keeping the objectives in mind, who's remembering that we're going to do these techniques, who's following up on the people who can help assist with that. And the people who assist with that, I know a lot of you don't have dedicated marketing people on your staff, and that's okay. But what I will say is, now is the time to reach out to your volunteers and ask anyone if they have marketing experience. So, you know, when I am not working at a nonprofit, I have many times volunteered at other nonprofits as the marketing person. And that's made a huge difference for them. They've brought in a lot of money. I've been able to help. I feel good. They get the money they need. Everyone's happy. I suggest completing the Arizona Gives Day communication planning template that we sent you earlier. I also suggest that you start preparing for matching grant requests. So this could look like drafting a list of people and places that you could contact, asking them if they would match your donations for Arizona Gives Day. You can also think about what's the realistic dollar amount that I could ask for. And really like setting down and saying, what would, if I asked for $1,000, why should a person or an organization give us that as a matching grant? So preparing for that now will help you be able to approach those people and those organizations come the new year. I also would say, if you have it in your budget, you want to start thinking about preparing a social media likes campaign. So that's where you basically broadcast who you are out into the world. So it's really about getting people to know, hey, do you know that we take in 5,000 animals in a year and help them find homes? We provide art services to 10,000 people throughout the state, etc. And then you boost those posts, in particular on Facebook. And then when people like that campaign, if you go in, there's a little button that says invite, and then you invite them to like your page, and then you can exponentially grow your audience who will see your stuff that you're posting, which then means that they're going to be more likely to donate to you when they see about you later. Finally, I will say we have another marketing workshop coming up on January 11th. However, I want to make sure that it's something that all of you really want to learn about. So I would like to focus that one on tactics and things that you need to know. So if you have any requests on what those tactics could be, or any marketing things that you would like to see or get a learning session about, please email me, and I will do my best to incorporate as many of those tactics as possible into that workshop. And if necessary, I'm sure Jen and I could schedule some additional workshops if there are too many requests. But I would love it if we were inundated with requests and we had to schedule like 5 more workshops. That would make me super excited. And then we
had a great big yes, please from one of our attendees. So, and we have 2 questions that came in through the chat about tactics. So when you're finished wrapping up, maybe we can just touch on those too.
Yes, of course. So the last thing I just want to mention is, we've got that January 11th marketing campaign creation workshop, and then, and I will be leading that. And we do have a January 25th system updates and new functionalities exploration, and Jennifer will be leading that one. So with that, I'm actually going to stop share so I can see people's faces. If that's okay with people. It's a lot when you can't see people's faces. All right, hit me with those questions.
So the 2 questions that we have. The first one was, could you address any tactics for organizations who have multiple offices across the state? And then to add on to that, someone who has a regional office, but their headquarters are actually out of state.
Yeah, so I would say if you have multiple offices throughout the state, I would say that your local Facebook groups are definitely the best way to hit those localities, right? So each place that has a headquarters, let's say you have a headquarters in Tucson and then one in, I don't know, Payson, right? So what you would do is you would find local groups that you could advertise in both locations, and you would post, starting with getting to know you posts. Like, hey, did you know that my nonprofit is located in your area? And this is what we do. And then as as AZ Gives Day gets closer, then you would start hitting home slightly different messaging, but it would be pretty much the same for both. So it would be, hey, in Tucson, this organization does this, and you put that in the Tucson local group. And then you say, hey, in Payson, my organization does this, and you put that in the Payson local group. To be honest, that's the best way to reach the people in your local area. If you have headquarters elsewhere, but you provide services in Arizona, you can do targeted advertising throughout the state using Facebook. So you can select just Arizona, and you can say, hey, did you know our organization serves Arizona? And this is what we do. So, or if you have a specific area, it's the same thing where you want to target that area. Those would be my suggestions. I hope that helps.
All right, any other questions? You can be brave and unmute yourself if you want, or you can send it in through the chat. I can answer questions as well regarding just Arizona Gives in general. If anyone has any questions, I know we're at the beginning of planning stages for Arizona Gives. Has anyone seen the new features out there where you can add your volunteer opportunities and you can add your events, and it all comes up on a public page? Yes, I'm seeing a few shaking heads for those that I can see their faces. And then there's also the opportunity for you to list on your own profile page items that you need. So if you are in need of socks or leashes for dogs or whatever that might be, you can list those items now on your actual page as well. So those are new features. So we hope that all of you join us for part 2 at the beginning of the year. And for the January 25th, I just wanted to say that on the that email is going to be going over all of the changes that you're going to see take place on January 18. So on January 18, when you log in to your profile, your dashboard is going to look a little different. And some of the tools you have behind the scenes is going to be a little bit different as well. And so we're going to have our technology company actually with me, and we're going to be going over all of those features so everyone's comfortable and they can ask questions. But be prepared that on the 18th that you will see some changes. So we've got someone who said this has been so helpful. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to hear. And like I said, please email if you have something in particular that you would like us to focus on in terms of marketing for the next session. All suggestions are welcome. You know, we are happy to hit on advanced techniques. We're happy to hit on, you know, more basic things. It's really about what you, the nonprofits, need. So just let us know.
All right. What time is the upcoming workshop? So for January, the workshops are at 10 a.m. They're on a Monday. And when I send out the recording for this, I will also include the links for people to register and sign up for those. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.